Chestnuts on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Hiya, sport. Be sure to join myself and other members of the ZBrush team as we conclude 2023 with a year-end retrospective you won't want to miss, highlighting some of the great fun and zany good times we've had throughout the year. We're sure glad you could join us. With a stylus in hand, ZBrush on command. Happy sculpting to you. Yeah. Well, you heard it here first, and you'll see it again and again. We're here for the final time of the year 2023. I'm Louis Tucci from the Noman Gallery inside the shadow of the Hollywood sign. My mobile correspondent, Ian Robinson, and my faithful Canadian compatriot to the right of me here, Paul Gabery. How are you guys?
I'm doing good. I might sound a little different in my mobile correspondence just because I came down with a little something. But I'm excited to be here. I think it's fun. It's always fun to get together and chat about some of the cool stuff that's happened throughout the year. So I'm really excited to be here. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Well, listen, they still got you tagged up there as Ian Roadrunner Robinson. I was going to call you Ian E-Boy Robinson today, but that's a whole different vibe. Are you telling me, Paul Gabery, that you're ready for this?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be. You got to just keep moving forward. This is actually, honestly, this is probably one of my funnest and favorite streams because we get to take a look at what everyone's been doing through the year and all the things that you all as a community have created and done with ZBrush. And then we get an opportunity to, again, highlight what we've done on our side to develop and the features that have been added into ZBrush.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
There was a lot of changes that occurred throughout the year, the last couple of years, and people are typically used to getting one big old version of ZBrush, but I think they got a little drip feed, and this will be a collection of the features today to go over all of the wild and incredible features that were shoved in there to give people more creative capacity than ever before. We also, Ian, I want to commend you. You managed to wrangle a couple of special guest community leaders. What have you got to say for yourself?
Oh, well, first off, shout out to them. We'll introduce them sure enough. So if you're just tuning in, please stick around because you're not going to want to miss who they are. But it's actually quite an honor because they wanted to be here. We reached out. It was really nice and fun. I just said, hey, do you want to be a part of this thing? And they were like, yeah, let's go. Like they were really excited about it. And they're also very, very much a part of the community, which to us is always just so grateful to have them. Just have anyone from the community want to come and represent, especially like you said, we kind of drip fed the features this time around. It's a little bit different approach than what ZBrush has usually done in the past. And so there's a lot of different things that have happened. There are some mentions of older features and also some newer features. And like we always like to do, we like to give context and we like to make sure that we showcase everything so then they understand what it is that has come over the last year. So while we can't cover everything, it's going to be really excited to show it. And these two individuals are happy to be here to also do showcase how they've been using some of the new features and some older features in their workflows. So I think it's going to be quite interesting. I love it.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to have that involvement continue and to see people continue to push the envelope for it. Paul, there were some standouts for you.
Yep, there was some huge standouts for this year. Some things that we've never done before that I want to touch base on and shine a little light to, if you will. We've done more events than we ever have in one collective year. The imagery just keeps pulling through for ZBrush Central. But one event that I want to call out is Monster Palooza. That was a fun one. It was the first time we ever did Monster Palooza.
Officially. Yeah. Because usually we're there roaming around like a bunch of hangers on and clingers. But it
was a ton of fun. Yeah, we've got this video here that was done by Mr. Louis Tucci over here, along with Grace behind the camera, kind of recapping. So what's nice is we're going back in 2024. So we're going to be there.
Yeah.
If you're in LA, during that time of that show, come by and see us. But this was a really cool show. All the makeup and what people go through to dress up. So it's really cool.
I had a really great time. There were some really wonderful expanded uses of ZBrush happening there on the floor as well that I wasn't familiar with, that I got the chance to see, and it's really, really exciting.
Yeah. Also, too, a lot of new users and veteran users of the past were really excited to see us there because, like you said, this is our first official time we're at Monsterpalooza. And if you're just tuning in and you don't even know what Monsterpalooza is, then if you're in the world of makeup and prosthetics, ZBrush is in that industry plus like 12 others. So it was really nice to be able to get to interact with that crowd more intimately for the first time. And that was the first experience for me. It was my first Monsterpalooza also, so I was really jazzed to be there.
Oh wow! I didn't know it was your first ever Monsterpalooza.
I don't know, it was your first time either. I would have.
Yeah.
A little more. Hey, you know what? The one thing that was interesting for me was you had a chance to showcase your gremlin. That was one of my favorite things.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah,
it was fun. Yeah, we all had models on there too, and we were lucky enough. Rick Baker gave us his Popeye that he did in ZBrush and 3D printed.
Still
we
so
had
good.
on the booth. So, what about another show for me that was big?
Tell them like it is.
May the 4th be with you. So this event was like a 5-hour stream.
Like a religious experience.
Yeah. Like if you're not a Star Wars fan, this is not for you. But we had the original guy that did on all the helmets for Kylo Ren, the original Kylo Ren. We had Hasbro there showcasing the toys that they're releasing that day. Then we had an artist from the community showing his at like life size to what it was in the film itself. So it was really cool. So guess what? We're working on doing this again this coming year as well. So that should be another fun show coming up for you all.
Is it going to be 5 hours again?
We'll do maybe 4 hours and 48 minutes. Keep it under 5.
Yeah, just under the 5 mark is perfect. So we go right to the last minute.
Ian, there were no bathroom breaks for that one, if you remember. That was really funny, actually. Everybody looking at each other like, is this gonna...
But it was a fun show, and we're working on making that one come forward again. I know some people reached out after that show and said it was really a lot of fun, and it was a blast. So we are looking to put that together and seeing if Hasbro once again want to be a part of it to show the toys that they're making for that day.
It's too good. We got to get hands on those prototypes, hands on those pre-release figures, and hold them and touch them.
Yep. Another show I would say was just recently. It doesn't feel like it.
The obvious.
It was in October, the beginning of October, when the ZBrush Summit ended. It's only 2 months ago. Really.
Always a pleasure. We were back on the grounds of the Noman School of Visual Effects in person, and we were able to have people come and visit and rub elbows and share stories and just reintegrate themselves with one another in a physical sense. It was really incredible.
Yeah, we wanted to call this one out in the stream as well, because we are posting all the presentations individually now. So you're going to want to go check these out. If there's a particular presentation you want to go keep rewatching, you can go right to that presentation now.
Hey, hang on a second. There's a point of reference there. A lot of people were online asking about certain presentations. That's the thing about the physical presentation, being here on the grounds of the Noman School. For some presentations, you'll have to be here in person, and it's a great excuse for you to come and rub elbows and meet people and maybe perhaps expand your career opportunities and who knows what.
Yeah, exactly.
Go ahead.
That's something to really just reiterate. It's really important. Like the in-person view. Like that's one of the cool, exciting parts about coming back to the summit this year in person, with some of those exclusive items that pop up. So it's really awesome that if you can be here for something like that. And like Louis said too, just the networking. You get to meet new friends and possibly new possible clients or even future job opportunities, because so many people in the industry show up. And one thing I want to point out too real quick before we move on is just the fact that there was some older features that finally broke the internet, dynamics. So it's definitely worth watching those.
Good one, Ian.
So
Capcom.
That was a cough. Hold on.
It's fine. Ian's under the weather. I'm gonna absolve you from this. He's mobile because he's got the some kind of contagion that he's localizing to his room there. No, in all
Yeah, let
seriousness,
me
what you
just
said is so important. It's so important. There's sometimes you never know who you're going to meet at this ZBrush Summit, and for us, oftentimes we get a chance to maybe motivate someone or push them in a direction and help them see that it's possible to do this thing. And I think I can speak for the whole community in that case. Like we're able to help one another and advance ourselves. It's a joy.
Yeah, well, I think we also want to take a look at this page, which is not anything new, ZBrush Central. This is you, the community, sharing with us what you're doing. So we want to take a moment. I know there's some staff picks here that they want to show and highlight and talk about. And I know, Ian, I'm going to start with your staff pick. All right.
All right, perfect.
So this was
Let's
yours. What was for you that this is awesome? I love this piece.
Yeah.
I love this piece. So it's Days Gone, and what I love about it is, and this is something that I preach all the time when I talk about, statue design, is storytelling. I shouldn't, as a viewer, I shouldn't really need to know what I'm looking at to know what I'm looking at, if that makes sense. And immediately when I see this piece, without knowing any context of what Days Gone could be, looking at it from just a true, outsider perspective, the dynamic posing, the storytelling behind this, I know that there's an apocalyptic, phenomenon going on. I know this person is like fending for their life, and it's just so dynamic that it's captivating, and it makes me search around the statue more and dive into the actual model. And then I want to dive in deeper because all the details that really bring the story together, how tethered his clothes are, how torn some of the actual flesh components are. The weapon he's using is not like a typical machete. It's like he put this thing together because survival is of the utmost importance. And so it's this type of approach of a statue that just really stands out for me and just makes me like really just want to know more about this piece. And then two, he mentioned in the comment section, this is about a 1/6 scale. So that is quite large, actually, to have this like piece on your desk or as a centerpiece in the room. So for me, it's like, man, just imagining what this would look like in my living room would just be so phenomenal. So it's captivating, it's storytelling, it's dynamic, and it was done in ZBrush. So that's just like the cherry on top.
Yeah, it's really cool.
This made me laugh. He said, "I'm excited to be in your living room." We are completely artists in a community because most people will be like, "Oh, I'd love to have this in the center of my living room," right? It's a diamond. Greg Callahan's been a long time user, super talented guy, super great, very good artist. So hopefully he's watching or hears. It's been a long time actually since I talked to you, Greg, but he's very talented.
It's 1 foot in height. It's quite large.
Yeah. But this is our mindset. Like this is my living room piece. The master right here. This is us. This is the way we operate in our communities, right? All right, Louis, let's head to yours now.
Come on down. Let's see it.
Wow, what a surprise. Look what you picked.
Yeah, I have to say, I just really dug the vibe of the character, and I love action figures and toys. So this was an easy one. I think he did a great job of breaking down what was going on here, and I like the showcasing of the clay render. And it's just an interesting body of work, the whole feed. And that's the thing about going into ZBrush Central. You get in there and start going deep diving into some of these feeds, and you see the work people have been doing over the course of months or years, progress and trajectories. It's really motivating. But this work is great.
Yeah, it's a lot shared. And I think anybody watching that's trying to get their work discovered, it's good sculpturally. I would recommend a gray render like what this artist has, right? So you can really just look at the sculpt and not just the colored images.
Slow it down for a sec. Go to the top one again, the first image.
You mean the very, very, very first images?
Yeah, the first one. Right there. Stop. Scroll down a bit. No, I mean up. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
And it's the name is say the artist's name, please.
Scrawn by Nature.
Scrawn by Nature.
Scrawn by Nature.
Scrawn by Nature. That's what I thought. Yeah.
You can send a message. Click on here. Send them a little message.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm just not logged in.
That's a good point you mentioned too, Paul, about the gray render. I'm a fan of that as well because you can hide things in color, but you can't hide things in a gray tone or clay render. So yeah, anytime I see that, I get excited because that means that artist was confident in their work, and it just really also just makes the piece stand out. So yeah, beautiful piece.
Yeah. One for me that was really cool. I'm going completely different what everyone thought it would be.
Oh yeah, I
So
thought you were
not hard
surface all
surface.
the way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look at you.
You guys didn't see this all the way. Well, I kept mine a secret, by the way. So Ian and Louis didn't know what I was pulling up. It was
Yeah,
hush
I'm
hush
seeing this for the
operation.
first time. Wow,
Mr.
that's
Cloak and
amazing.
Dagger. He didn't say one word about it.
Nah, he never does. He hides in the shadows and comes out of his bat
Yeah.
cave when he's ready.
I am the Batman. So
Speaking
I just
behind
really love pieces in this that have there's just like what Ian said, there's a story here, there's something here. The work that this artist has to put in to get this and make this work. And I'm a big fan of kind of big contrasting renders too, with that gold in the back and then just the white with the shading. It makes my eye look and then start looking around the rest of the sculpt. So it's kind of like also this one. Same thing,
Oh yeah,
right?
that's a good one.
That's
This is
fire.
one of my favorites of the year.
Yeah.
So I just enjoy seeing the sculptural asset of coming through and what people can do with it. It's a lot of fun to see what people are doing in ZBrush, and this is one of my favorite ones. Obrudba.
Yeah.
My top row pick was the Robert De Niro from Taxi Driver.
Oh, Robert De Niro from Taxi. Yeah, not surprising.
No.
Not at all.
Also,
Yeah.
Ian's got a very special T-shirt on, but today Paul Gabry shows
Oh.
up in the Miami Beach
Yes.
version. Look at this shirt that Paul Gabry's got. He's got a very nice turquoise.
This one or this one? This
The
one?
one you're wearing.
Oh, the one I'm
Look at
wearing.
that.
This one.
Yeah,
I'll
stand,
stand
up,
up.
Paul. Just
Stand up a second.
Stand
Show the
up.
people at home.
show that 6
Look at
foot.
There we go.
6'5".
There you go.
Load that right up.
Or right here.
There you go.
Yeah, these are the shirts you can get on the merch store now. Not only that now,
Show them the big one. That's a fan
for
favorite.
those that weren't able to be at the ZBrush Summit or wanted the special ZBrush Summit, this is now available on the merch store. You can also get one of these on our merch store. Kyle will put the link in the merch store in the chat for you all so you can see it. And Ian, you're also wearing it.
Yeah, I'm wearing it too. Yeah, I can stand up just a little bit. There you go. Yeah, super cool. I love this shirt. One of my favorites for sure.
Which has also got ZBrush in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Everything we do is ZBrush. We love ZBrush. Look at my beanie.
Well, it was a
well,
wild
speaking of that, let's dive into looking at some features that we developed this year. I want to go in and just show a couple of the ones that I like. And then, of course, what a surprise, hard surface, right? So this is a character that I'm working on. So I want to share some of the techniques where I'm at with this. So you guys can take this in and see what features I kind of like to do and use. So this is kind of the head bust, obviously. So he's going to a full character eventually. But I want to just focus on this part.
It looks
and
great.
look at a couple features. Huh?
That looks great.
You like that?
I know you just did that.
Thank you. I did. Yes, it was
Yeah.
relatively quick. Okay. So let me get into it. One of the big ones that was added that I really like was the new masking option. So I'm just going to switch to this head so we can just focus on like this portion right here that we're looking at. So for me, I like to do a lot of experimenting with this when I'm doing hard surface. So this is where I can just start doing some masking options. And I tend to turn on lazy mouse. So I can do things like make something like this and then come over here, have this follow the design a little bit. And then maybe I want it to round out, come across, right? So this is experimenting. I'm trying to figure out shading wise what I want to do. So one thing we added to make this faster for me was in the masking palette now, we have something called auto region, right? So what this is going to do, when you click on this, it's looking at those shapes that I'm drawing out and then automatically filling that mask, okay? So the problem with this in the past was I had to do like this. Well, let me at least do a better quality, right? So I am doing this to kind of just see, I want to follow the lines of my model, and then I had to sit here and do this, right? So this is where I'd want to turn lazy mouse off, okay, and then go about it in a different way, right? So right now I'm using lazy mouse, so I'd want to turn that off. So then you get this, so like this, and I'm sure this is happening to people where you're not able to keep it clean. So now with this, we can do the same thing where we can draw. I can hold the shift key, kind of get the shapes that follow maybe where I want it to go. I like that shape. Now I want to put something else maybe next to it. I want it to around here. Kind of follow that line, come down to here and to there, right? And then now I just hit one button. I get what I want. And then now I inverse it. And now for me, I just want this kind of be like a little panel that's popping off. So this is where I'll just start inflating it out. Or if I want to go in, you can do things like this. Okay, so this now in combination with something like this, there's some stuff here I don't like, I'm not a fan of, I want to change up, I want to do a little different things. So I'm going to go back in my undo history to where we got nothing. I'm going to make a marker with the control key in that, and then I'll bring it all the way back. So one important thing for me is I want to be able to also erase this, because this is kind of destructive. So I want to switch now to my morph brush, okay, and then start morphing stuff out now as well. So you can, at any point in your model, use the undo history and continually changing up this design if I want to, right? And then if I change my focal shift, then you're going to have a stronger line that you have here, and the higher you go, right, the bigger of a line you got. Right, so this is in combination of using these two things, I can speed up real quick in the design elements. So if we go back to my main guy, you're going to see there's some parts here where I'm experimenting in here and all through here and along the top. And that's what I was doing. And then in this piece in here, there's all this stuff through in here. There's a lot of figure out experimentation of what I want to do and what I want to have. So those two features were really big ones for me. Having that morph brush now can be used with any model at any point in time with the undo history. The key thing is it's got to have the same exact polygon count. So I do not now have to remember to store morph target. And then I also like having that masking, just figuring out things and then filling it. Okay.
It was very painterly of you.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, I have a surprise.
Oh, you have a paint. You have a surprise.
I have something to show you.
Okay, please partake. Okay.
Oh, I like surprises.
Well, I'm intrigued what this surprise is. Everyone
Louis
excited about the surprise? Yeah, Ian, go.
I was gonna say, yeah, Louis always is full of surprises, so you know.
Oh, I know what you got here. Go ahead.
Hold
Another
on.
user-made piece.
Yeah. We were talking about Monsterpalooza, and I had my people take care of things off camera there. Hang on a second. Come back live with the folks.
Okay.
Can you hear me now, Ian?
Yep. Oh, I hear you loud and clear, buddy.
All right. So we had from Monsterpalooza, speaking of painterly, we had our friend and fellow monster creator and ZBrusher extraordinaire, John Mahoney, produce these posters for Monsterpalooza, which he was kind enough to sign at our booth.
We gave them away too.
And we gave away a limited number of posters.
Yeah.
So this is one of them. I want you to get all that glare. Hang
What
on.
number? How many? I don't remember. What do we have? 150 or 200? I don't remember the run we did.
Right there. That's
I think it was like 100
good look at that.
ish.
Oh, it might have been 150 because we did 50 each day.
so that was the first one.
These are all 100% done in ZBrush, including the render.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to
BPR
stop for a
rendering.
second. And here's the
Why,
second one.
please partake.
All right, hold on.
Okay, that's one color. That ended up being the popular one.
Okay. Everything
That was the
Everybody wanted the pink and
pretty
blue
in pink,
one.
man. I don't want to say I told you so, but pretty in pink. All right, and here's the other one. Ian Robinson,
Yep.
live from.
This was my favorite one. I love the pink one, but I really like this one. This was my favorite one. So, but yeah, everybody was loving the pink, but they both are
So
fantastic.
all done in ZBrush.
Yep.
Yeah, that was cool. It was really great of John to take time to do that as well.
I think so.
Excellent.
There's more to follow.
More to come.
So you got a big grin on your face. What's up?
I got more stuff I want to show.
Carry on.
Okay. Got more stuff I want to show for sure. Okay, so back to this guy, right? Again, everyone, the way I kind of work sometimes at hard surface, I have an idea and I'm using ZBrush to sketch out my idea in a lot of cases. So this is kind of workflows I'm showing you for me. So that's why. So let's take a look at, say, this piece. I'm going to recreate this piece right in here. Let's go and kind of what I did real fast in here. So I'll making it simple, grabbing a cylinder. Okay, I don't want this to have any spans. We're going to be good. I'm happy with that. Okay, so I'm going to switch to a different brush. Okay, and I'm going to say, let's do something like this and like that. Okay, I'm going to turn on the floor just so you guys can see where it is in space. I'm going to say I want one maybe there. And in fact, let's go this direction. And we're going to get, I want another one on the other side. And I want to change kind of the shape of this. So one of my favorite deformers is extender. So I can do something like this. Maybe it's a little too much. And you know what? I also don't want it symmetrical. Let's only just pull the one direction. There we go. There. Mistakes. My whole career, happy mistakes. Okay. And so I want to keep thinking about this. So my design, I was like, hey, I want to have some kind of round element near the front. And then I kind of want to wrap around the head. So that's where my mind was going. So I'm going to switch to ZModeler and go to a bridge. I'm going to two holes. And then deciding on, I want round corners. And then now just have something pop out like that. There. Okay. And then for me, I want to see what this is looking like when I divide. So I want to make sure I'm always in this mindset. So when I'm doing low polygonal items, I live in the crease world because this is really what I want it to look like. This is where I want to start living.
Say crease again.
Crease. Right? And then, so again, I'm starting to think of things that I want to have happen to this model, and we're good to go. Now, I like to create kind of layering in some of my work when I'm looking at this. So I'm going to now switch to my knife curve and start making changes here. Okay. So, but I don't want to look at the smooth version because when you're doing a cut, it looks good here, but it's very faceted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply my dynamics and then I'm going to delete. So then I just have nothing but the smooth. Okay. And so now I want to start thinking about things like this. However, we've now added a split to parts. So for this opens up for me now is, you know, I kind of want to do something like this. And then now let's move this piece up and let's center it. And let's change the size of that. And then now that is a new piece that I can start working on, right? So this is going back to the original piece. Okay, you can see where I'm starting breaking things up. That's helped me break up my silhouettes and then looking at the piece a little bit differently, right? So now you can just have some good old fun with this and then start adjusting things. Maybe you want to just come up with a new design. Maybe this is going to have an angle now, right? And this is that old saying, happy little mistakes, right? So this is kind of what I enjoy doing, trying to figure things out, especially when I live in the hard surface world. Okay, so having that splitting apart ability is giving me this now new way of designing and working because it's not deleting the mesh anymore. We're just actually cutting it up into pieces. So then moving on with that, I want to start moving on and start adding some elements to something like this. So I'm going to grab an insert mesh brush. I think if you're going to do hard surfaces, kit bashing is one of the important things to do. So I would say, oh, I want this to live right there, right? Obviously, I'd want it symmetrically to be right there. So I can live there, put that right about in there, and do this. So you can see I have to do some adjustments as well. So I'm going to split this off right now. Let's just make this it's separate. Okay, so the original drawing out, I drew it out. I had to do some arrangements and some changing. Now, if I wanted to do this, I can instead, let's do a drag dot. And then now just have another piece that I just position where I want it to go. And the nice thing about this, it's just going to use my draw size right out the gate. So I already know the size that I want, right? So we don't need this on. Okay. And then I just figure it out. So going back now to this, I could have just now do this. And so I can go from this side and say, I want it to be about that big. And then there you go, it's that big. Okay. And then what also is very nice for us for this is you've got many other things here so we can kit bash with and draw out. So here's another one that I like to use. So we can come up here, position this where I want. So I can have a big one there, right? Maybe make a smaller one that I want. But instead of just having one at a time, what we also have is all the strokes that are available to us. So I'm going to switch to something like dots. And then this is where we're going to have some real fun here. Whee! And this is sound effects are needed. This is why sound effects are needed in ZBrush. So now this is dropping multiple inserts of this same mesh. And I don't want them to be like this. I kind of want them to space out a little bit. So I'm going to turn on lazy mouse. And I'm going to put just a gap in there of 2. So now I can start drawing them out, right? So I can now, as an artist, start having different parts here. And I can have them being drawn out like that. Or, you know, I say I want even a bigger gap. I want something larger than that. And then now this is what I started to do and thinking about, okay, how many do I want to wrap around here, right? So I just found the number that I liked, okay, and then figured out, no, 4 is too many of a gap, and then switch to 3. And then now I do something like this, and then I can take a look at that. And then for me, I'm looking actually up here. When I'm doing all this turning around, I'm always looking up here. Little hockey peripheral coming into play right there. Okay. And then to continue on this workflow, okay, because it's going to be our guest time here soon. This is now giving me something where I've got a bunch of meshes sitting on top of themselves, sitting together, sitting here, right? I would want to now maybe change this down the road like this. I don't like where this is sitting, right? So this isn't sitting in the right spot, so I want to adjust it. Okay, so we can do stuff now where we got to try and look at things visible and try and get there. So for me, another way could be, well, why don't I just do this, where I'm masking it out, or on the flip side, doing this. So the problem with this workflow is this is completely unmasked, but this part's not. So a new addition that we have for this calendar year as well is in masking. There is now a shrink all and a grow all, right? So what this is doing is looking at what parts are masked, what parts are not masked, and it's looking at the whole shells. So right now, this is unmasked and this is unmasked, right? So this is what I originally had, and then now this is what I have. So then obviously you also have grow all, and now this is really what I would want in this scenario, because I want to look at just this one portion and kind of maybe even reposition it if I did want to reposition this. So this opens up that if I even do a masking like this, okay, there are multiple pieces masked. So you either want to shrink it all so it's all gone, or you grow it all out. And now all the other pieces are available to me. Okay, so this was important for me to keep designing this particular character, and this is something I'm always doing, especially in the hard surface world. All right, so these are just features for me that this year we've done, and Ian and Lou are going to share more. I've done something else, but I want to go one more. I got to do one more, guys. Okay, do I have permission from Louie over here? He doesn't care about me anymore. He's just a ride for the
do it.
ride. There he is. Look at that. Yeah, Ian.
Yeah, go. Just do it.
Here,
Okay.
I was keeping.
You have the
I'm
conch.
housekeeping.
Go.
All right.
There's some back end stuff
Okay.
going on here.
Okay. Okay. All right. So when I start to get to a point in my design on a hard surface, I want to start now having, if we turn live Boolean back on, I want to start putting maybe some other elements in it, like this here, this, or this pattern right there, the pattern there. So these are just extra elements that I like to put into the design. So if we're going to come back to here, the thing we need to understand is, for example, I can do a layer brush and do stuff like this, right? Pretty nice to be able to do things like this. But in this particular example, I don't have enough information, enough polygons there. So if let's go a little bit higher intensity so you can really see that. Yes. There it is, nice and faceted, super clean. Looks very hard surface. I say it does. Okay, so I can do positive, obviously, strokes and negative strokes, whatever I would like, okay? So instead of doing this, I don't want to even divide this up. I don't want to Dynamesh it. I don't want to Sculptris Pro it. I don't want to do any of that. And in fact, I want to use the idea of Sculptris Pro. Okay, so in the document, we have now a drop 3D. So this, again, is a new feature for the calendar year, right? So far, almost every single feature I've shown in my segment has been new features. There's been a couple things I showed that weren't new. But so this is, I want to look right at this. I'm going to drop this down. And now we are turning into 2.5D brushes. And I want to take advantage of these brushes. So single layer brush is a really fun brush to have. So we've got now more strokes at our disposal. So I can do line and see I can have the same thing, but see it's got a little bit more softness to it there. Okay, and I can switch to Z sub. I can say, you know what, let's go with a little bit smaller draw size. You can do something like this. Okay, but here's something else that you can do. This is where the difference is going to come into play for us with this stroke. Obviously, if I divided up my mesh previously, you could get this with the layer brush. What you can't do with the 3D layer brush that I can do with this single layer brush in 2.5D is something more like, okay, I'm going to make a stroke like this, and then I'm going to switch into the gizmo, and then I can also have other copies of this, right? So this is, I can have another alpha of this, and then make another copy of that. And then I can even switch to scale it and scale this one down. I can rotate it, right? And then switch back and then make another copy there, another copy, right? So I can keep making copies of these strokes. So with this in mind, everybody, when I now go to pick this up, if you remember, the original strokes I was making weren't clean, where these are clean. Because what we are doing in the spirit of Sculptris Pro, we are actually tessellating up those strokes for you right there. Right, so what this has enabled me to do is really have a bunch of kit bashing where I can have even really low polygonal stuff. I can have high density, high polygon stuff. I have freedom to cut pieces up and move them around. And again, the other thing I like about this, if we undo this, going back into the drop 3D to just expand upon this ability to copy and change the strokes, you have other stroke types here in the 2.5D that you don't have in 3D, like a grid, right? And now maybe I want a grid here. Okay, and you can have a grid that looks like this, but you also have controls for this of how many repeats do you want. So now I can have a grid that's more like this, right? This is something you can't do in the 3D mode that I can take advantage in the 2.5D mode. And I don't actually have to worry about what I'm dropping. That's the point of drop 3D. Let's get rid of that mindset of, oh, what's my polygon count? Am I subdivided? Am I in Dynamesh? What am I? We are going to take care of it for you, and then ZBrush will just give you the result that you need, so you have something nice and clean, right? And turning on the polyframe again, you can see how much more dense this is getting. And you can control this as a users as well, as the users, okay, is when you drop this, okay, there is a subdividing pixels. Okay, so the lower you go, the more polygons you're going to get when it gets picked up. But you can also turn it up and drop it lower. And then I have to call it the optimize. This is actually going to decimate the portion that you're getting more details with if you wanted to, right? So if we turn this on, and now let's do another one. Let's not do it that one. Let's do this one. Here we go. Okay, and then we pick it up, right? You can see this is decimating, but I can undo and get the original, and you can see the two variations. So for something like this, I would want to have that sub pick slider lower than what it's at right now for this particular state of the model. So these are just a couple things that I really enjoyed using that we've released in this calendar year. And now I'm just, at the end of the year, sometimes I tend to make something, especially for Christmas, tree ornament. Boom. There's my Christmas tree ornament right there.
This is your Christmas tree ornament?
This is going to be one of my new Christmas tree ornaments. Yeah, that's why I'm just starting with the bust. Want to figure that out?
Robocop coming down the chimney for you.
Yeah. Well, I usually do an 80s one every year too. Something from the 80s. I did the APC from Aliens. I did the Alien Dropship. I did a Gremlin. I'm an 80s fan for those that have seen my streams before. So I figure I'll sprinkle a little bit this year, something of my own designs in there. You like that?
That's awesome.
Very sweet.
That's very sweet.
Okay. I had fun watching you do that.
Okay. Thanks.
Really nice.
Well, we're gonna move on now. It's my time is up. Right? So we're time to move on to our more community stuff. We have a special guest, Louis.
I'm kind of flabbergasted by the whole ordeal. You just showed that in such quick and expedient fashion, that wonderful hard surface model of yours. I give you a round of applause.
Thank you.
Golf clap for you. Ian's doing it around the world, and the people in the chat are liking it too. So we have a special guest. Are we going to tell him who it is? You want me to tell him who it is?
You take it. I'm here I'm buckled up for the ride.
Well, the man who needs no introduction. He's been a part of the community for so long. He's an exponential amount of output and contribution to the lexicon of all learning. Ian, go ahead and say his name for all of us at home. Say his name. Who is it?
Mr. Michael Pavich.
Bring him on, Mr. Michael Pavich.
There he is.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, Michael. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me
Hey,
on.
Michael.
Yeah. Thanks for
There he
being
is.
here, especially such last minute. So appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Well, you have the conch, sir. So
So we're gonna hand it over to Michael. Thanks for being here, Mr.
Absolutely.
Pavlich. Always a pleasure having you.
Smash
We're
the
gonna-
like button.
our-
Hit subscribe. It's Michael Pavlich in the digital flesh.
Yeah, we're gonna let him go. He's gonna share some stuff that he likes and some tips and tricks for you all.
And don't feel rushed, Michael. Take your time.
Okay.
So we'll hand it off to him.
I really mean that. Take your time.
Again, thanks so much. Ian asked me, like, hey, we're going to do a year in review. Just in the past year, any cool new features that you use? And I'm the kind of guy who doesn't remember what he had for lunch that day. So I had to literally go back and look at what I had done in the past year. And I got to say, ZBrush kept me real busy. In fact, a year ago today, I did my Waffle Ira live stream, which is hanging behind Paul, I've noticed, which is, I got to say, like top 3 coolest things that can happen to a ZBrush fan like myself. I'm on a print behind Paul Gabry while he's showing ZBrush stuff. And this, again, is from a live stream, December 6th, 2022. Now, this is from the pre-slime. I have 2 eras of ZBrush. I have pre-slime bridge and post-slime bridge. Pre-slime bridge, I do a lot of goopy mouth characters. We ended up doing Waffle Ira here. And again, I'm not saying I'm stealing from any like food artist at this point, but anytime you see me doing any greasy fried food from now on, I guarantee you I've got some inspirational stuff, which we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, so here's, again, pre-2023. And then, of course, right out of the gate, well, and then the very last live stream I did, which was yesterday, December 5th, 2023, still doing goopy slime bridge creatures. This is in the post slime bridge era. A lot of goopy mucusy things going on, but I'm still doing that type of work. Right out of the gate for 2023, again, ZBrush keeping me busy all year long was the initial 2023 release. There's our boy Slime Bridge, Dynamic Symmetry, which I use all the time, Mask Region, all these great new features that we have in 2023. I think I did a Mario live stream that month, didn't have a ton of time left over. Immediately following that, ZBrush 2023.1, this was Proxy Pose. And this goes into, you also asked me like, hey, what, just a couple of features that you like to use. I have them in 4 different categories. This one is in my hard to beat combo category, where it's Proxy Pose, the new Anchor Brush, which hasn't been released just yet at this point, the new Gizmo masking features that we have, just fun, easy ways to take these high res creations in ZBrush and kind of lower that barrier to entry to get those things posed and moved around and making cool stuff. And then a little bit of scan data cleanup. You all introduced me to the Reallusion Character Creator folk, and it was like, hey, take your ZBrush model, so here's the world famous demo soldier, shoot that over, you can do posing that way as well. And in fact, this character right here is me. If you have ArtStation Learning, you can go on and make me as a gangly teenager if you want. I think it's a 12-part or 12-hour intro to ZBrush series here, but so I stayed busy with this for a little bit. And at this point, I was like, okay, great. I'm going to go through and pose all my ZBrush characters. Of course, not so fast. ZBrush has a new update, ZBrush 2023.2. This one right here, the morph history, ended up being, I put this in my sleeper hit category. It was something that was, you guys showed, and I'm like, oh, that'll come in handy. That has saved my, in production, we're very conscious of vert order, and the ability to use morph brush with the history storing has saved my butt many times since this thing has been released. And I can do a quick demo on that if we have enough time. Yeah, so a bunch of cool new features. And at this point, I didn't have anything for my live stream, so I had one of my mega Q&A live streams where I show up and just pretend to do something and hope people ask me questions. Past this point, again, doing a deep dive into the character creator stuff. But what I love the most about this workflow is the fact that it keeps me in ZBrush all day long. So basically, I'm in ZBrush sculpting bodies, sculpting expressions. I'm in ZBrush creating gear and clothing. And then I hit a button, I hit Go Z. It does some stuff under the hood. I do some character-y stuff on the other side, and then I hop right back into ZBrush. So the worst day in ZBrush is better than the best day in any other aspect of character creation for development type stuff, migrating Unreal files or, renaming Perforce data, that type of thing. So again,
sounds like a t-shirt. Sounds like a t-shirt.
I was gonna say,
if you guys can keep me in ZBrush, I'm a happy camper. And then I came up with a new hobby, basically going through, I had some old photos from the British Museum. I just, from a phone at the London British Museum. I went through and I was playing around with some of these features here. And again, it's all a ZBrush backbone. 3D scan cleanup in ZBrush, projecting textures in ZBrush, sculpting facial features in ZBrush, deconstructing everything, popping pieces out, and again, hitting Go Z, going through, and, everything is on that ZBrush backbone. And then, of course, using my face to make these old statues talk like old Texas NASCAR drivers. So that and a Julius Caesar head, again, all ZBrush backbone, which again, I can't emphasize enough how cool and fun that is. Past that, this is, now we're all caught up, and you can see we're bookending this also with and again, anytime you see food on my channel, I got a booger sandwich here for the Max on Noise presentation for ZBrush 2024. ZBrush 2024, what's new features? So if you go to my ArtStation page, I don't know why it took me like 10 years to do this, but here's everything. If you go to ZBrush What's New section, here's an intro to ZBrush course, and then all the ZBrush new, features since, 4R8. So if you click on any one of these, ZBrush 2021 was a monster year. You can scroll all the way down here, and here's all the What's New videos to get you caught up if you're into that type of thing. And yeah, I think that's it. That was my year in 2024, and I still got some minutes left. So
yeah, go ahead, jump in there if you want to.
Oh,
do it.
We've got several minutes left. Go ahead.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
So I just want to, again, this was one of my sleeper hits. Well, I do want to call out the one that's still blowing my mind is that repeat the similar parts. It's still one of those features that's like super magic to me. I haven't had a chance to really use it in production yet, but every single time, even when I'm just kind of playing around with it, it's one of those features where I'm like, I don't understand this, but it's rocking my world. This one, the sleeper hit, was the morph brush history. So basically I have a sculpt that I did in ZBrush. It's a Face Tools head sculpt of a vampire. And what I can do is I can, do a bunch of Face Tools stuff and then go into a character creator to give me a base body. However, this head has all the details on it, right? And the base body doesn't. So I have to make those match. Normally what you would have to do, and you could do it in ZBrush, which is, subdivide up, project history, or ZBrush project all. But, what can happen is sometimes we get projection errors. It's just going to the nearest vert, whereas a morph is literally moving the state of one vert to another point based on that geometry. So all I have to do in this case, and these are completely separate subtools, which makes it so powerful. I can take this standard base head at subdivision level 6, control tap this point in history. That's going to store the vert positions and the RGB information. And again, 100% done in ZBrush. Start with the CC topology, go through here, sculpt, poly paint, and then I just need to attach it to this body. So all I need to do is go down here. And again, it was at subdivision level 6 on that head. And the craziest thing was that head is completely separated out. It's not connected to the eyelashes. It's not connected to the body. However, if I subdivide this up to subdivision level 6, and then you're going to see there's polygroups in here, so I can easily just get rid of these polygroups. So now the vert order of these two objects is the same. And since I control tapped that point in history to store those positions, I can go in here with my morph brush, BMG, just make it real big. And then I can go through here and just, let's go ahead and switch that out. Go through here and I can just morph all of that detail back onto this head. And it's not a projection. You don't have to worry about, any sticky lips areas in here or anything getting caught up, the mouth bag and the eye, all those little weird places that, get tight in those areas. It is error free. And on top of this, because it's stored in history, I can now go in here and switch over to skin shader, BHR. That's our history recall brush. I've already projected the sculptural detail. So I'm just going to swap on RGB for this brush. I can literally go in and paint the detail. And again, separate subtool. This one doesn't care about vert order. It's just literally projecting to the nearest vert. But because those verts are now on top of each other, I can do this. Or again, if I just, let's go ahead and separate this back out. I can go in here to the subtool project. Here's project history. We don't need geometry. We just need color. And we can just project our color from that one subtool to the other one. Super easy. And I don't need to worry about, this is a little bit memory intensive because we are dealing with 14 million points. Oops. But again, and there we go. So now we're all caught up. We have all of our details back. We have our poly paint transferred, and I'm good to go to start modeling on the base body here, which, I end up sending this all the way back over. This is all done in ZBrush, poly painted in ZBrush, sent over, and now I've got my character animating, all gross and goopy and creaturey. Again, just using ZBrush as that backbone. And I'm done.
That's awesome. That's a great, it makes me think of more workflows, right? I have a bunch of different blend shapes now. It's just different subtools, and now you're just using the morph ability to get it all work back together in the full body. And then it's crazy to see the way you put together your year in review. That was a great idea. Just look at everything that you've done in the year, and then what new features have changed the way you were working.
It's really motivating, actually, to see that.
This is really cool for me to look back and go, well, a year from today, I've actually done more than I thought. But again, you guys kept me real busy, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate what you're doing for the community and all the community members too involved in creating artwork. That's why we wanted to have you as a guest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I dropped all your links, both to the ArtStation and to your YouTube as well. So if anybody's watching and is like, hey, I want to go check those out, I dropped the links in the chat. So please go check out Michael Pavich. If you don't know who he is, you do now. So definitely go and say hi and give him a follow. So Michael, dude, it's always a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here. It's amazing.
Cool.
Awesome. That was great. Thanks again, Michael.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Yeah. Appreciate you
coming
by.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
You never know, Ian Robinson and Paul Gabriel, who's going to pop in and help us discuss the world's favorite digital sculpting software.
There's more coming. There's more coming.
I thought that was it.
No, absolutely not.
I'm only teasing.
Okay. I said, what happened to our production meeting? What happened to that? Okay. Let's take it away, Louis. You got this now? This is your turn.
Yeah, I guess it's my time to come back onto the machine. They're really getting their worth for me. They're squeezing me, taking me from the host chair into the ZBrush realm. And I guess we're ready to go. This is not a common occurrence, but here we are. Just keeping them. You had something?
Wait, are you sticking with the food theme? Butter?
I did this with specific. I knew Ian would get a kick out of it as he's laughing. And I think we're all leading up to our sort of, I don't want to reveal too much, but anyway, let me make sure that you distract me here. Okay, so anyway, we're going to talk about some changes that I need to take these off. Is it echo? Yeah, we're going to talk about something interesting that occurred over the course of the last year, which is, if you haven't been made aware of it, you saw that Michael was showing some really cool stuff, and there were some slimy things happening there, and I'll get into that in a moment. But for all intents and purposes, here we've got this little pound cake sitting on this plate. And one of the big things that I think was a monumental shift forward in the trajectory of ZBrush, as it were, is located inside of the selection brush region here, which is accessed by holding Control and Shift. And again, this is nothing more than just a simple sort of cube that's been modified a couple of minutes. And you can navigate here. And previously, what you would have had was an opportunity to come in here and select the knife curve or any of the selection brushes as it was. And so by default, you're going to have selection brushes like the selection rectangle, for instance, and that's going to let you just come and grab something like that. And that'll just give you an opportunity to start to isolate parts and pieces and components. And if I say Shift F, or if I come down to the polyframe button here, you'll start to note that you can access the view, the polyframe view. Inside of there, you've also got the line and the fill options. So you can, you can work to your heart's content in those ways and customize this to your liking. Excuse me. So if I hold Control and Shift and I click in an open area of the canvas, I'm going to bring back this, the selected part that was hidden. If I hold Control and Shift again, and again, I'm going to turn off perspective for a second. If I hold Control, Shift plus the Alt key, I can cut away parts of this. Now, this is really great, and you're seeing a gaping hole here, and we'll overcome that by coming down into the basement menu here where the display properties are and highlight we'll just go ahead and say double-sided, and that's going to let us see the inside faces of that asset. So again, that's just located here inside the display properties. And you're probably at this point asking yourself, why in God's name is he showing this? Well, I'd like to start from the beginning.
No, I was asking myself why you're using a mouse.
Right. That's a whole other point of contention to be discussed at the year-end staff party. So, and I am using a mouse, and it's really just a cheap old little, I won't even say the name of it, but it's a really cheap little $9 mouse. I myself, an O'Farrellon creator of ZBrush, used the mouse, so that's kind of funny. If I hold Control and Shift and I click in an open area, I'll bring back the piece that was hidden once again. It's important to note that, I know this may seem rudimentary, but understanding for the multitude of people that are watching maybe for the first time and coming into ZBrush for the first time, the concept of polygroups and the concept of polygroups as they relate to even masking and selecting and hiding parts, I'm looking at you, Paul Gabriel, can't be understated. And I think there's a tremendous degree of relevance associated with that. So I'm just going to say Control W and group this into one piece, okay? And that's just grouping the visible piece. Again, if I hold Control and Shift, I can access the knife circle, the knife curve, the knife lasso, and the knife rectangle. These historically functioned as follows. So you would select the knife, and what would happen is, I'm just going to make sure something's okay, perfect. So historically what happens is you'd come here in a very sort of destructive way. And when I say destructive, I mean simply just cutting something off means that it would go the way of the dodo, and you would get a representation of another polygroup to frame that off. Now it looks like a piece of cheese at my grandmother's house. So I'll just say Control Z to undo that. The new change for this past year revolves around this concept of some kind of insect flying around me here.
That's just me.
No. So the new concept sees us work to facilitate a slicing option that, and again, just to show the full breadth of this, is that if I selected something like even the selection lasso, you'd have an opportunity to select these pieces like this, and you'd have a more sort of representation of that lasso that you would implemented across the surface. Again, this is going to be something that maybe doesn't get said enough, which is it's going to operate in such a way sometimes where resolution is quite important. So the higher the resolution, the more sort of succinct this selection will be. And you'll see that it's not jaggedy, but more smooth. Let's just move on with this idea and hold Control and Shift and access our knife circle, our knife curve, and our knife lasso. So if in the case of the knife circle, what's going to happen is we're going to get this circle, and it's going to project this through the surface of this asset. And basically, I'm going to have this grouping that can occur if I have if I've selected it properly. And in this case, what I'm going to do also is take the knife curve and change it to show you the new function, which is going to be accessed by holding Control and Shift and pressing the space bar. And new for this particular version in this year is the split to parts option, along with the polygroup option. So the first one we'll see is the split to parts option. And this is really handy dandy because it lets us, Paul, you've imagined it and now it's real. We're going to cut like a knife, and we're going to have this mask occur across the surface here. And like a hot knife through butter, Kyle Johnstone, we are going to have an opportunity to invert that selection. And I'm going to say W, and all of a sudden I've got this retention of the sliced bread. And this is in no uncertain terms.
So food.
Yes, with great intention and purpose to build up for our sort of our big reveal at the end of this.
Oh yeah.
I hope wherever you are, you're smiling because this was just for you. So you can see now that there's a tremendous degree of dexterity there. And the reason I showed it that way was to demonstrate to you this idea of ultimately clearing this mask and saying, okay, we've got this internal face here that is now created and this other internal face here. And it's really kind of a non-destructive way to cut things. Again, you can manipulate this by masking it, holding control and clicking across the surface of this asset. And doing that is going to allow us to hold control and click in an open area and invert that, of course, and I can move this wherever I want. Or alternatively, Paul Gabry, and probably of even more use is inside of here, we've got the subtool menu. And what we can do is we can create another subtool by just simply changing our Control and Shift brush back to the selection rectangle, hold Control Shift plus Alt, and hide that piece, and then say Split Hidden. So now I've got a separate sliced piece of bread here that lives on its own and can be manipulated, again, to your desires. So this brings me full circle to this idea of masking as a construct. I think maybe I'd be remiss if I didn't show this because everybody likes a little bit of honey on top of their bread maybe from time to time. And I want to show this because maybe somewhere somebody's going to find this to be of great value. And it's going to set me up to talk about something that came this year that everyone kind of thought was really neat, and we were developing and thinking, hey, that's really slimy.
Whoa, look at that.
See what I did there?
So I saw what he did.
In this case, generating a mask is something that's achieved by holding the Control key and then clicking on here. Ultimately, there's a ton of different ways you could do this. I think if I use the drag rectangle or the mask rectangle, and I change my my alpha type to something, in particular, let's go with something like this. You can see that we can start to apply on the surface of this thing, grandma spice. And again, that's resolution based. So if I wanted to increase that, really what I would do is come here and say geometry and say divide a couple more times, and it's going to be resolution based. So I'll say hold Control, click and drag across here. And I just want to get a really rough sort of estimate as to what that is. Again, holding Control and clicking on here, and I'm just going to sharpen that mask. You've got options inside of the masking function here, located inside of our menu set here. And you'll see that we've got options to shrink, dilute, and grow the mask. I'm sure at some point later on today, someone's going to get into some of those options for growing and doing those things as we've implemented that as well. Making sense? I'm actually just showing this because I think sometimes it gets lost on people, the idea of making this an extraction. And so really, if you're out there and you're just coming in for the first time or you're new to ZBrush, I think it's really important to note that really all you have to be able to do is load a sphere and be able to create masks and use something like Dynamesh, and you're off and running. And just to be sure, I'll make sure that the bottom here, I'll clear the bottom part of it, as it were, so I don't create two of them. Okay, and that's definitely going to work wonders for us here. And I'll say extract, located here inside my polygroup menu set. Let me just delete the lower, and I'll go to extract, which is here. And you've got some settings here that are going to allow you to make a wonderful extraction happen. I'll just use the default and see what happens. And there it is. That's the thickness that is located here, and very easy for us to navigate. Give it a little bit more bump, and that's good enough for me. I'll say accept, and now I've created this separate and equally interesting bit of business. And there's a little bit of sprinkling of what how you would use a knife to cut the bread, and sprinkle some honey on top of your bread. But okay, why did I preface this by talking about the mask? Let's move into a different set. You don't look convinced.
Oh, I'm convinced.
Are you happy?
Ready to go.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm buckled up.
for sure.
So let's
Just
take a
need
look
the
at this
sound
guy.
effects.
Yes.
And let's talk about this. For the longest time, I was thinking, how can I resolve this idea that there's no saliva happening inside of this space of this guy's mouth? And ultimately, it would be kind of neat to see that happen. Maybe some business happen from the top portion to the bottom portion of the gums in there. And I think that, I'm really happy that we were able to do something with development that is a continuation, in my opinion, of the masking operations and the power of masking inside of the application. So without further ado, let's take a look at Slime Bridge. Let's get slimy.
I know. Let's
Get a smile on your face. How about a smile? Yeah,
Let's get slimy.
Let's get slimy.
Okay, so with great power comes great. Oh, stop. So here we have, inside of this menu, you're going to find the slime bridge. And ultimately, what's going to happen is, well, I'll tell you what. Let's start from the basics and do it as follows. So if I simply come here and I select this portion of my my asset, and what I'm going to do is delete this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate something here, which is this area with my mask, and I'm going to have it grow from here. So again, I'm going to hold Control, and I'm going to switch my mask to the mask pen, and then what I'm going to do is just change my brush size, which is achieved by holding the S key. That's a shortcut for the draw size slider at the top of the menu. And then I'm going to come and just create this. Sorry. So I'm going to make this mask here on here. Oh, you've got the stroke on from before. That's you. Turn that guy off. Okay, so I've got this little bit of business here, and then I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to select this other area here. And initially, I'm sure this person has bad breath.
You think so?
In context.
I think he takes.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to
He
say,
takes what, Ian?
He has breath mints.
Oh,
He's
that's
aware
fair.
of it.
oh, sorry, I can't even hear you. I put these down. My bad. What did you say?
He said
I
he
said
thinks he has breath
mints
mints.
in his pocket. You know, he's aware.
Okay, so by default, if I just press the slime bridge button, we're going to get, and again, this is a pretty dense model, so give it a second here. We're going to have an opportunity to see this grow, this madness from the top of this gum region down to the bottom. And you'll see there, that's the response. So looking at it, you think, that's maybe not the way I kind of wanted that to go. And that's actually going to be adjusted here. If I say Control Z, I'll come back here and I'll increase this tension and reduce these bridges and branches and capillaries and bring those down. Okay, so I'm going to crank this guy up to, let's take it to 100% so you can see the distinction there. Let's crank it all the way. And I'm going to say slime bridge again, and you're going to see it do its business. Keep in mind that I'm going to step backwards and do a further demonstration on this to talk about resolution. So here you see that we're going to get something far more in alignment with what we were trying to do. Paul Gabriel, are you smiling at that?
I love it.
It's pretty neat. So again, maybe 2 branches, as you can see here, is not your best setting in this case. So let's go up to 6, and we'll give 6 as well. And capillaries would be the connectors between and across those. I'll give them 4. And I'll loosen up on the tension, bring it back to 7.
Loosen it up, man. Loosen up. Just relax a little bit.
As he says,
Juicy.
everybody just relax. All right, so let's try it again and see what transpires.
Hence the slime bridge.
Hence the slime bridge.
Hence the slime bridge.
Okay. And action.
Louis, I have to say, I love the detail on this thing that you're achieving.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Mouthful of goodness. So that moves into the space of being more in alignment with what we wanted. And you can see there that that's the case. One thing to keep in mind, if I could be so bold to do so, is I'm basically going to, let me just load this like so. So as a default goes, we'll give the people a backwards to forwards approach. Okay, so check this out. If you're watching and you're loving it, let's go ahead and talk about this here. I'm going to bring this down to the lowest level, and you'll see that this is 1,538 points, and I'm going to delete the higher. And what I'm going to do is make a, let's just make a duplicate. Okay. And actually, I'll do it the other way. Just delete that guy. All right. So with this being said, if I create a mask here, excuse me. You better not have got me sick, you.
What are you talking about?
Hey, now.
I'm so
So
far
here,
away.
based on, what is it?
I'm so far away from you.
So far away.
I knew you'd get it.
I'm going to go to Slime Bridge, and I'm going to just leave it as a default here for a second, and we'll see that that is the response that you're going to get when the resolution is lower. So think about it in a way that aligns with, I'm going to take these off. Think about it in a way that aligns with the concept or the idea of approaching your work from a construction-based standpoint first, and sort of thinking about larger forms and larger constructs initially. So something like this would definitely be something that you would move towards at the beginning of your design phase, to allow yourself that idea of as to where it's going to be. And with that in mind, you would get a different response from it. So if we change some of the settings in this case here, like let's again come back in here and say Control Z, and then look at the tension and slide that up to like 50%. And again, just leave these guys as they are. We'll say Slime Bridge, and you'll see that we're going to get a more straight approach. Making sense? So you're going to get a more tensile response between the masks, between the two pieces. The other part is if I crank it up again, I'll just say Control Z one more time. So a lower sort of setting is going to allow for more sort of, I wouldn't call it erratic, but a more flexible movement or less tense. And all the way cranked to 100 is going to give you something that is quite tight like that. And I think that that's actually quite useful if you were thinking about like maybe something coming off of a hand or something like that, you know, illustratively speaking. You're with me?
Oh,
like
yeah,
a kind of X-Men type of thing, you know, maybe like Iceman, something like that.
Spider-Man,
of course, right? Carnage, all these people that are floating around me in the distance. I think that's a good way to start to think about that. And then this is the response or the result of it having resolution that looks like that. Now, again, that's pretty important when it comes to masking and overall the idea of masking. So the resolution is going to define in some ways this idea of how much, how many and how dense this is going to be. So let's go ahead and do something in particular here. We'll shut that guy down. And I'll say in the geometry tab for all you folks, I'll just say divide, which is also going to give us more resolution. You'll see that now when we generate a mask on here, first of all, the mask that is generated on the surface is going to be more succinct and actually more dense because of the underlying source topology. In this case, what I'll do is I'll just showcase it this way, and I'll say Slime Bridge with 100, and you're going to get an even more sort of, I guess pronounced would not be the right way to put it. There'd be more of them sort of occupying the space in that regard. So I'll say Control Z, and again here, let's just sort of reduce this down, and you'll see that we're able to have even more dexterity design-wise. I'll say Slime Bridge, and you'll see that it will start to change. And again, that tension slider is your key to making it kind of go from one zone to the next in a more sort of in a less direct way. So I'll say Slime, lower that down, and you'll see it here, and you'll see that you get more erratics that way. How's that looking? Some kind of insect.
It's looking slimy.
Cool. So again, in context, right? Like if we go back to our mouthful of goodness, we get it here, and I think that like for me rather, was something that I find really fantastic and useful. The last thing, well, I guess that's pretty much it. I've gone over. I think I'm good.
Yeah, you're right on time, Louis.
You're right on time right now.
Okay, so that's fine.
So you have something that you want to show quickly. You know,
there's
been a lot.
Yeah, there's so many things. There's so many things. All right, let me just do one more. I guess what we'll do is let me just take this guy here, and I'll load a cube, and we've got the contact. Now you can snap your assets. Are you smiling? It's hard to gauge what you're doing over there. What's happening?
Making I know where you're going with this. This is one of the items I was wanting for years.
Okay, so this is good. You'll be a happy guy. I'll just go like this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say inside of my subtool menu, I'll append. I'm going to append this cone, let's say, and you wanted this for years. Why did you want this for years? What is it about it?
Well, obviously because I'm a hard surface guy.
Okay.
I'm always wanting to do something specific. I'm not going to give it away until you do it.
Well, that's fine. Let's one thing to keep in mind when you're doing this, we're going to access this concept here called contact down in the menu set. There it is. All right. So you've got this contact function or feature set inside of here, and what I'm going to do in this case is look at this and say, all right, we've got the gizmo, and by default, when I press W, E, and R, we're going to get the gizmo activated. Historically speaking, if you're from the days of yore, Kyle, that one was for you. You can press the Y hotkey, or you can just go ahead and turn it off, and you're going to get this. Let me just come over here and demonstrate this. You're going to get these, which are the transpose lines. Still very functional and useful if you're into 3D printing and stuff like that. You can use this to actually measure. Oh, I'm looking for a response from you here. This is where you say, yeah, hell.
Yes.
Yes.
Measuring.
Okay.
Yes.
You can use this to measure, and it'll give you and you can see here in the top left, you're going to get a 1.6133 units is telling us from here to there the distance. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about this idea of snapping this guy back to this guy. And this is going to be achieved by pretty much simply just, let me just go here. Okay, and I'm going to turn this guy off. And I'm going to just alt click on this guy here. For whatever reason, it's not working. Oh, it's on. Okay, my bad. Let's do that. Okay, let's go ahead and use the, again, the W, E, or R to bring this up is going to give us an opportunity to bring up our transpose line. And I'm just going to click on here. And I'm going to actively do this so that I go from this face to this face. And check it out. And that looks to be a good starting point. Mr. Gabriel, you feel good?
Yep.
I'm going to go down to contact, and what contact is going to do in this case is, number one, I'm going to say C1. Now, there's two things that need to be taken into consideration. One, you're probably going to have to work from a spot or an angle where both faces are visible within the camera's view. And the second part is once I click and drag, it's the first click and drag that's going to matter. So again, you know, making a note of that if you're watching. I'll say C1, and then I can just say apply. And that's going to snap that to the top of that. And Paul, that's the part you were dreaming about and hoping for all along. And why were you dreaming about this, hoping for this all along?
Because there's often where I create something and I want to align it with another item or have it start where an item is, especially for hard surface stuff. There's a lot of times where I want that. Like I got a floating mesh and now I want it to align on a certain surface.
And that's the key term, align. People are probably wondering and sitting at home thinking, well, that was kind of strange. It's not centered. Well, that's fine. That's why we've included this align operation here. And what we're going to do in this case is say, you know, ultimately, I want to click on this guy here, and I'm going to start to align this in such a way that allows me to put this inside of the center space of this thing. And that's it. So that's your year-end in review with me, Louis Tucci. I'll leave you with one last thing. Which is a big old bad breath smile from my friend, the mouthful of goodness. Thanks to everybody in the community for all the support and all of the wonderful posts that you make inside of the ZBrush Central forum. It's really motivating to be a part of it. And I guess let's take it away. And we've got another big special guest coming up. It's making me hungry just thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so let's go ahead and bring on our next guest, Mr. Patrick 4D.
There he
is
is.
up? What's up, Ian?
In
What's
the
up, Paul?
fourth dimension.
I got
What's
the
happening?
ZBrush mug. I got the mug.
Oh, look at that.
Cheers. Yeah.
Keeping it up.
There's totally something in here. Yeah, cheers.
Perfect.
Literally everyone's got
There's
mugs.
definitely something in here.
Yes. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, thanks for being here. It's a pleasure, and again, man, you know, thanks for the short notice, but we're excited to have you here and showcase some of the ways you've been using ZBrush throughout the year. So, have at it, my friend.
Of course. No, I appreciate that. So, I'm known as like the food guy recently, digital chef, whatever you want to call it. And I've just been doing a lot of like
Hence our
commercial
food
work.
jokes.
Yeah.
A lot of food jokes. Remember the
I'll
morsels?
cut that
Foreshadowing.
bit just for you.
Remember the morsels one? Yeah. Yeah. So pretty much, I don't have like a huge presentation. Pavich is going to be a very hard one to follow, I'll be honest. But just to show, I think the screen is showing, but this is like my Instagram where I post most of my work. You can see a lot of stuff. This year, really, I solidified into the game of food. And like even like a year and a half ago, I wasn't like solely doing that kind of stuff, but I've been able to get super deep into just the whole realm of digital delicacies. And you can see just every single one of these things made in ZBrush pretty much entirely. And so especially with like the new 2024 that came out, you know, this one, speaking of Slime Bridge, like I used that for this right here. So stuff for like cheese, like stringy cheese, this, if you guys have downloaded 2024, maybe you saw this one, this little ZBrush protein bar.
That's great.
In the installer. So we're just, yeah, the biggest thing is we're trying to make people hungry. That's what we're doing here. And I'm excited to kind of bring food more so to the spotlight, because I think ZBrush, the characters, assets, like all this cool stuff, not necessarily food all the time, but I've found that it's actually an amazing program to try to make food. So I got this,
you're bringing my childhood back right now.
Oh yeah. So we had just a couple little things here. I'll keep it real snappy, because I know we like snappy. So here we got the little Debbie kind of cupcakes, because we got Christmas coming up soon. And Louis pretty much did my presentation for the most part,
dude,
like using that knife thing. So I was gonna do butter with honey, but I had to just make this last minute. Essentially, if I were to go back here, you can see a lot of times when I'm making like candy bars or kind of delicacies, I'd want to kind of rip them apart. And like you said, going back here, I have like a basic shape here. We go down here, just basic tree shape. And if I were to go to the knife, let's go knife lasso tool, and just hold down Control Shift space bar, split the parts. You can make a very easy kind of break here, and then I can just take the gizmo if I want, go all the way down, and it's super easy to be able to just like Control tap, even while just keeping the stuff in the same subtool. So just easy stuff like that, and then right from that, maybe zero meshing. You go geometry, zero mesher, keep groups, smooth groups down to 0, maybe half it real quick, so it keeps everything that we kind of saw earlier intact. And once we have kind of something a little bit cleaner like this, a lot of times I'll like to Control tap on some of these areas and make sure select rect, and kind of hide these, and maybe color them the same, just so I can easily mask these later. So Control tap, and then maybe we can feather these a little bit, making sure I'm in the right masking mode. And then we inverse, and this is where, again, one of the new tools in 2024, one of my favorite tools is surface noises. So love having the new Maxon noises. So if I were to go to new noise plug, you can see we got the Maxon noises here. And usually what I do is just click OK, and you got to do a little bit of setting up here. I take the strength down pretty much all the way first, and then this slider pretty much mixes the plugin noise versus the basic noise you get. So I usually take that all the way down so that we can see what these noises look like. And already, like literally just like that, we're looking like we got some cake texture. So once you're in this mode, though, you can go back and just click on noise and just flush through these. And you can see all these new noises. And literally for me, it's as simple as just like when I hop on the daily live stream every day, I'm just like, okay, this one kind of looks like cake. This one, let's try this one. I haven't used this one. Okay. Maybe take that down just a bit. Click OK, and then mask by noise. And because everything else is masked off, all we got to do is maybe go to the deformation tab and go, maybe let's do a nice little inflate, reverse inflate. So depending on, we don't have that many polygons here. So if I were to actually go back and add some more polygons, let's redo that. And now if we were to go back to the surface noise, mask by noise again, just going to take and inflate this stuff down. Just like that. And I think, yeah, we had dynamic on, so that should be a little bit punchier. So you can add these like cool little lines here. And I also do that a lot of times. People have a tough time with the edges of objects. So an easy thing here is if I just go to mask by feature, I have these saved so I can just be a little bit faster here. It'll take into account the borders or the polygroups or things like that. And it'll just give us a little bit of a mask. And then we can just grow that selection. You can find these later in the masking properties, but let's grow that mask and then invert. And if we go to like surface noise again, let's just drag up another basic noise here. We drag the strength down, maybe take the focal shift. You can see kind of what's going on here. We're getting a little bit of variation on the edges because a lot of times people have a tough time compensating for things being too perfect. So we got something like that, mask by noise. And then maybe just inflating this stuff out a little bit. So you can see like the edges will get a little bit crazier if we want stuff to be a little bit broken off like that. So that's just a lot of times I'll spend a little bit moment in that feature doing that. And I had one more. We had some, I don't know if you guys like In-N-Out Burger, but we got some animal style fries. I know Ian's big.
Yeah.
You got to like the fries.
You know, it looks
Oh,
a little
man,
bit
come on.
Poutine.
poutine.
Yes.
100%. Looks a little poutine.
It does. from this angle, it does. And
Yeah.
I think I've gotten so used to making these things in like a grayscale setting. And just so you can see what this can look, this is actually the one I'm going to be posting tomorrow, I believe, on my Instagram. But this is kind of like the
nice.
full lit and textured kind of
Wow.
stuff here. So you can see
That's
a lot
the
of
fourth
stuff
dimension
does
right
turn
there.
into fourth dimension, just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really nice to be able to layer these things on. I think one of the most important things is, you know, when you're adding stuff like cheese, having it all layered super nicely on top, and you're not just like placing a block of cheese onto like a mesh. It looks like it all folds into each other. And one of my favorite features to use is the none other. Let's say we just got a little batch of fries. Is the mask curve pen tool. So a lot of times I'll go to mask curve pen. And let me just make sure the fries are
Oh, you know what?
selected.
But actually, Patrick, it was nice to see you used the V1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, eh? Is
The who, where?
did I miss? Did the V1? Did you switch to V1? So you
Oh, yes,
are you
yes,
storing? You're
yes.
storing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah,
is something
so
maybe
pretty
people
much.
aren't aware of.
Of
That's
course,
why-
that's a good point. Thank you.
Yeah.
The before I met up with you guys, I put this on V2, which is essentially showing everything in its entirety. And for this part of the demonstration, if I just go to V1, I made sure the ones that I didn't want selected or visible can be hidden.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to just flush through
Nice.
instead of having to manually do that stuff. Other than that, this gets really cool in a second. If you just go to like top view or really any view, once you have the mask curve pen, you can just start dragging stuff like this. You're like, why am I doing this? This doesn't look like anything. But my favorite part about this is that when you go to a different angle, it keeps like the height baked into. You can see this follows like the curvature and the height of the fries. And because they're on the same subtool, usually what I do is just control tap right there. And it essentially didn't do anything. But once I'm there, once you go to the masking mode, again, this is my custom menu, but you can just go to grow mask and boost mask a bunch, and it'll grow kind of like this selection there. And so you usually don't have to start too crazy. If I just go with something like this and control W or shift F so we can see the polygroups, we turn off the lines. If we do control W, we can see, okay, this was our selection. And what I like to do from there is control shift tap. It's like, all right, that wasn't enough cheese or whatever. So let's control shift X a bunch of times or S to shrink the selection. And I'm like, okay, that looks good. Let's control W there.
Those
That was
polygons
a bad
coming in.
color. Right? Amazing. As long as they're different, you can kind of see what you're doing. And then once you're there, you can just go back in, control tap, which kind of masks them off. And you do a simple subtool extract to accept. And once you're in this mode, let's go to our best friend Dynamesh, of course. Oops, mask must be cleared. Dynamesh. And then we're just going to go maybe inflate all this stuff. Re-Dynamesh. Oh, we got the cheese. We love the cheese.
The cheese with the cheese.
You got, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I think all you'd want to do now is if you just go to polish, just like that, and maybe play with the contrast slider is how cheesified or blocky or smooth you'd want that cheese. So that's kind of how I do that stuff, and then maybe layering more noises, inflating, doing things like that. But starting off with those initial settings there. And I think trying to think if I had anything else. Something with the fries I think I was going to show. Come on. No, I think that's it. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it. So I think I've just been doing food for so long at this point, and ZBrush every single morning I'm doing. I got the Discord that I'm streaming with, and we usually post the finalized renders every single day on Instagram, and that's how I get a lot of client work. And I didn't realize there was an industry for food until I started doing this. I started getting hitting up by a ton of corporations and snack companies, fast food companies, and it's been great. But I could not do any of it without ZBrush, straight up. So I appreciate you guys.
Of course. I'd love to see his kitchen. I want to see all the sponsors.
Well, I mean, this whole thing's just it's a massive overcompensation for the fact that I can't cook in real life, is what I usually say. So I swear, you'd think I'm like the goat in the kitchen, but I'm the goat in the digital kitchen.
That's awesome.
I'm the goat in Yelp.
Yeah. Just ordering in.
Oh God. Oh God. Oh yeah.
Well, this is awesome. And then this is what we want to celebrate in these streams too. Unique artists like yourself as well too, using ZBrush in a different way. And your renders are just beautiful too. What you can get done as your final result as well.
Thank you.
And then everyone, please,
Appreciate
you're every day, right? Still, you're making something.
Yeah,
on your
every single
Instagram?
day we're just making one of these
Every-
renders, and you can see like I start with these little like intro shots, and then I just like
Yeah.
let it go from here. Well, it's kind of glitchy right now, but yeah, ends up being this stuff. So I show processes all day, every day, and
That's awesome.
That's
Dude.
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, there's your print. I said, there's your 3D
the
print.
goat.
Oh, there's the guy.
Oh, there's the goat.
Oh yeah,
There's
also
the-
yeah, the print and the print's right here, literally back here.
Oh, there it is.
Oh.
Yeah, there I see it.
Forever, we're gonna go
Nice.
right there. That turned out great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
little
the
tongue
color
guy
3D
here.
print of one of his pieces. Everybody.
That's fantastic.
We went
So
from the
Mamaki.
poly
Yeah.
paint to the printing. I don't know how that
Yeah.
worked, but they really hooked it up at Mamaki.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So we've got one more. There's more. It's our very own Ian Robinson from his mobile location is going to take it away. Patrick, that was awesome. Michael,
Appreciate
and
you guys.
Paul, and
Thanks for having
the
me.
rest. Yeah, thank you. Everybody.
Thanks for
So
being
far.
here, Patrick. Thanks for being a part of the show.
Always.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick.
Okay, Ian, take it away. What are you going to show us?
All right, all right. Well, I got a few things. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up at some point in time. So I have a lot of things I wanted to showcase. And so we're going to go through. And first and foremost, I really wanted to showcase one of the older models that I started playing proxy pose with. This was a feature that really changed the way I approach any of my models, especially since a lot of my models have recently been starting to become animated. Like this raptor is actually going to be on our series VFX and Chill. And it's really cool to see your projects come to life. Well, I'm also a big component of 3D printing. And just really quickly, we've been talking about the knife curve for some time, right? And especially pressing and holding spacebar and seeing that split to parts. So I'm also going to add polygroups onto that for a second. So let's just imagine real fast, I want to 3D print this guy because I do that quite a lot, right? And before, in the past, in order to get a really nice clean cut, maybe we'd want to do like some sort of separation. So maybe I'll hide my lines here. And we would want to like utilize polygroups to our advantage. So I'll take like the mass lasso, I'll come in here and I'll say, okay, this might be a section that I'll do Control W, get another 3D print, isolate this, another piece for my 3D print, come in, isolate this, et cetera, right? And this is one approach to do it. However, this is quite tedious and over time can be quite the process. And I'm always thinking about how I can get things on the printer faster. And so, if you're familiar with 3D printing, then you might be familiar with what this little guy is. This is our typical tapered key that we use a lot for key cuts. So going back to thinking of how I can use a knife brush a little bit differently, I immediately thought, well, there's always variation, especially like if I go to use live boolean, which is a way I've been using key cuts for some time. And I'll just quickly demonstrate what that looks like. If I were to just grab a simple plane like this, throw on my lines, and I come in here real fast and I reconstruct this. Yeah, it's probably a little too much. There we go. I'll turn on symmetry. I'll use my Z modeler, right? And I'm going to just quickly make an internal key, say something like this, and we'll just extrude this out. Bada bing, bada boom, right? So I'll do something like this to then get a nice tapered key. But then also too, why is that plane there? Well, that's because I'll probably want to come into dynamics and go ahead and add some thickness. And this will give me some thickness. Now, of course, you'll want to refine this key, but here's the part that kind of always killed me with my prints, is this part right here, this thickness. At some point in time, this plane is going to go ahead and cut off a piece, and I'm going to lose some of my sculpture in the process with utilizing that key, right? So thinking about like, I'm already going to lose a little bit when I, add in my internal key, but I don't want to lose too much of the external. So if we go ahead and delete this guy, and now we have this, now immediately what I can do is select my body here. Instead of worrying about masking things off, again, I'll just go ahead and get rid of the line segment for a second. I'm just going to go ahead and say polygroup with split parts. And I'm going to say, you know what, I want to cut it off right about here. Boom. And what's cool about this, like we've already pointed out, is not only does it cut that piece, but it also welds that piece for me. So now I can quickly come in here and say, you know what, this is now where I want to cut this piece here. That part was just masked because we always mask that section off. So let's clear the mask, right? Come through. Maybe I want to cut the wrist a little bit. I now get to come in and it's doing a lot of that work for me. Let's actually cut that shadow the other way, keeping our selections. And so now I can immediately get the head separated differently, the wrists are separated. This now just allows me to have a little bit more freedom in separating these pieces out really, really quickly. Now you might be saying, Ian, you see some holes right there? Well, that's because even when we separate that piece originally, we're adding a different polygroup. So if I were to go auto groups, you'll see that is actually pretty solid. And if I come through here, you can see all these pieces are nice and solid. They have that piece. So now what this affords me is the ability to grab my nice little key piece right here, scale this on down, and figuring out exactly how that key is going to fit. And this just makes me speed this workflow up a lot better. So this is something that I've been playing with when it comes to the knife brush in order to get a little bit more of what I would want quickly. And then I would finish up, weld the keys I want together, and then apply those cuts using light boolean at the end. So this is definitely an approach that you can take to kind of speed up that key cut process. And it's also just quite nice too, because now I can actually come in here, turn on transparency, right? And select that key once more. So if I can select this key, now I can actually also see the internals, that external model. So it's really super beneficial in a way that I've been using the knife brush new feature a lot. Moving on to that. Yeah, huge time saver, right? So now moving on to that, I'm going to Control Z up just a little bit, because the reason why I built this Raptor the very first time was actually to showcase proxy pose. And you'll notice that my keys are quite dense, right? Like this is, I mean, this model is like, it's about 2.6 million. And, you know, I was the guy who didn't have subdivisions, or maybe it's in Dynamesh, or maybe I tessellated it.
Oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, you know it. So now I want to pose them. Well, you know, maybe I'm not 100% sold on ZBrush at the moment, because, or I want to just play with a few things and not lose any details, you know, because again, when you go to optimize your mesh, that takes time. I am wanting to see instant results right now. So I want to know what this is going to look like when I pose it. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go under Geometry, Proxy Pose. And what we'll do is we'll turn that wireframe on. Look how beautiful that is. And I'm going to sit here now, and I'm not even going to turn on the proxy pose itself. I'm just going to immediately start grabbing the slider. And you can see here now that we're getting a nice proxy cage that is going to reduce the mesh by a percentage. And I have found that around, you know, 1-2% reduction is actually quite nice. Again, remember, this model is already, you know, about 2.6 million. And if you look up here right at the top, if I go ahead and hit Shift M, which is a golden feature for me, if you don't use Shift M to see what's going on, that magnifying glass is solid. So you see here, I now reduced that 2.5 to 25,000 active points. So this affords me now the ability to combine features, which is how we actually want everyone to kind of look at things. So what is a feature that just came out that's really awesome? Anchors. And this is something that I super love. So beforehand, when I would go posing, I would come here, maybe mask this off, soften it up, say, okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. Or a little trick you may not know is if you zoom all the way out here and you do a mask, say something like that, and hit F to zoom in, you'll see that I actually gave me a nice fall off automatically. Well, instead of doing this process now, the new anchor brush allows me to add 2 points of contact, and I don't have to worry about masking that section off. And I can step down and start making new changes. And I can zoom over here and say, you know what, let's move this. Now, I just hit a new point there, so I want to make sure I grab that point nice and perfect. And immediately I can come in, hit F on the keyboard, and I can start making these pose changes. I can grab this point and this point, again, start bringing this up, and I can get some weird fall off. I can also really touch between those joints to get a sharper fall off, which is really nice. So I can just hit these points, and this allows me to step down. Now, of course, I'm leaving behind the claws, but the point of this is kind of showcase how you can utilize these features as best as possible. Let's go ahead and just say, let's say we're done with that nice little tail movement. And don't forget, actually, we can scale up and down the tail itself if we wanted to, or we can even do an inflate. We can actually have a lot more control. We can even twist this a little bit if we would want. So we can grab here, start to twist this. Again, getting a little bit more expression and detail in that tail. So now that we have this, I could just press and hold Alt a couple times, And now, let's say I'm happy with that pose. I'll just hit proxy pose. And again, it's not a projection. What it's going to do is it's going to take all of that difference and it's going to snap all that information right back, right where it is. And you can see here, everything is moved along with it. So proxy pose has been a game changer for me, especially with more complex models such as this wonderful guy that I've been working on. Actually, let's show the pose version real fast.
That's great.
Because
Cowabunga,
here,
Ian.
I know. Thanks, man. Yeah, this has been a slow, fun project for me. But really, like, let's take a look at his hands real fast. So I'm going to go ahead and just tap right here. And let's take a look at these fingers. If anybody's posed anything at any point in time, you're going to be like, man, fingers are brutal, especially when you're trying to get it right. And so if we were to go to the T-posed version of this, and I'm just going to go ahead and isolate again just his hand for a second. Coming here, if I had that rotate, I'll be able to grab these 2 points and start moving this down. And you can see here, this model actually has subdivisions on it. So I'm able to turn around and move these fingers and position them exactly how I would want to. And it makes it just a lot easier. I don't have to keep masking things off. However, this is not the only way you could do posing. There is another new feature in 2024 that works really well, and that has to do with the gizmo. So the gizmo, if I go ahead and hit the transpose, we have transpose classic and transpose. And the new transpose tool, especially when you're doing asymmetrical sculpts and stuff like that, right, we want to make sure we have a little bit of variety. Now, I'm all the way zoomed in, and I need to make sure that I do not have symmetry turned on. So you can see if I hit X, might be a little hard to see. Let's actually get that magnifying glass up there. Maybe we can highlight this with a smaller stroke size. Maybe not. Okay, well, if you pay attention to that red line, if I hit X, you'll see that there's a double line for symmetry and a single line for asymmetrical. So when you're in asymmetry and we pull up the new transpose line, what I'd be able to do is usually we would, again, come here and say, let's mask off this section, let's let go, let's soften this, let's alt tap, let's push this in. Right, this is a lot of work to get that done. Instead, now what we can do is we can come here and say, you know what, let's actually press and hold control, start pushing this up, and then we're going to let go of control, and we're going to go ahead and place that right in the middle of that finger. Now notice it has a nice soft gradient, so instead of doing it that way, we could also just start right here and get a softer gradient. And that's going to snap right in the middle. And again, I'm just going to hit F here, and now I can start moving that finger. So there's multiple ways to come in here and just start posing our hands exactly as we would want to have them posed. So it's just a nice fast way, and that is actually how cookie cutter show. We come back to this guy, we come in here. It's actually how I went ahead and posed him right here and really got all that nice information in the actual hands itself to wrap around that sword. And then just because, Patrick stole my thunder for a second, that max on noise is actually how I got the skin texture on him as well. Luca noise is quite nice. Go ahead, Louis.
No, I was saying fantastic. It's great.
Thank you. There is something else I kind of want to call out a little bit because we had this break the internet, and I loved it, and the amount of surprise and shock and awe that happened during the live stream, specifically of Capcom, where they showed cloth dynamics. It broke the internet, and this is one of the reasons why we love the ZBrush Summit. It's because just the power of what we've brought into ZBrush, even just years prior. Like when I was a noob and just coming in here and trying to play with stuff, you're always trying to find new and expressive ways for your work. And cloth dynamics is something I want to remind people of quite nicely, especially when we're looking at something like this bandana. Right now I use the anchor brush for this, and I got some nice movement. I came in here and I said, yeah, let's flow this like this. Let's push this up. And the other ways that you could do this, as an honorable mention, if we just back this up for a second, is a way that I think I started on one of these, which is using bend curve. And bend curve, which does not work with, of course, subdivisions because it's a deformer. So we're going to say bend curve, right? Some of you might be very familiar with this workflow where you're able to utilize this. And so again, this is just another solution for you in your experimentation of finding your creations come to life. Well, again, dynamics is no slouch when it comes to the ability to bring your characters to life. And real quick, again, right up here at the very top in dynamics. So even if you're not in 2023 or even 2024, if you're in at least 2022, you have this. And it's right here, the ability to come in here and actually manipulate. So if I just do a collision volume chest real quick and just have this nice bandana, say I'm going to want to have this effect, and I just go ahead and hit run. Boom, right? It's falling, and then it hits the ground, and he lost a piece of his bandana. And that's no fun. So I'm going to go ahead and... It was, right? So now, woo, actually. Ouchie. So 1 second real quick. I pushed the limit. So I was working with a 59 million polygon model. Let me just load that up real quick. It just popped on me. But nonetheless,
like
dynamics can do really, really
top
fun.
row. See that?
I know, right? Yeah. So here, let's while that loads up real fast.
We got Waffle Guys
Come
too,
in here real quick.
still live
yeah,
on the floor there,
honorable
Michael.
mention. Here, so let's
Scrolling
go here.
by
Let's click this
conveniently.
guy. Really come through here. It's not a demo if something happens. So there we go.
Yeah,
so,
that's the key part too. I think why we also like to do a highlight when we can every year, because there is multiple ways to use these features we're developing and getting out there to you guys, the community. So it's always good to see the way you're all working with the features, because that also helps us for the development purpose as well. When we're trying to think of new features or new things to continue
100%.
expanding
Yeah.
what we're doing. So again, we can't thank you enough for sharing your images as well and being a part of ZBrush Central. And for those people like we had Patrick and Michael Pavich as guests that are also streamers on ZBrush Live. They're sharing things all the time with the communities, and they're not the only ones. There is a large group, including the people here in this gallery show that we have right now. A lot of them are always looking to share. And this is one of the fun parts about the community that we have for ZBrush, for sure.
And we see things and it reframes the way that we might approach like new features. Like you said, that's the biggest deal. I think that's the biggest feedback loop.
Yeah.
Got the waffle right behind me.
You can't escape the waffle. It came up
No,
in
you can't.
Ian's computer too.
The waffle's everywhere.
It's
All right,
clearly
my screen's
lunchtime on the
back
West Coast.
up.
Take it away, Ian.
All right, let's bring my screen back up for just a second. Boom. Okay, cool. So again, we have the dynamic system. Just for a little fun call out here too. Boom, 65 million. So when you start getting those high-end models and stuff like that, you risk it for a biscuit, and sometimes you break some stuff. But here, nonetheless, so if I want to add a little bit of expression to this, I can come through here and add collision volume to this, and then once that collision volume kicks in, and it recognizes my scene here, as we saw, we could already do the gravity and it drops to the ground, but also too, I can come through here and say, let's mask off this fun area here. Let's soften up that mask, right? And now I only want the stuff that is not affected, or that's not masked, to be affected. So here I could say, all right, this is where I'm going to go ahead and hit that run simulation and bring a little bit more realism to it. And you can see all those wrinkles starting to form in. Now, of course, the wrinkles itself are starting to collide on itself, where we have self-collision that will happen. Since I'm working with double-sided geometry, and that's bound to happen, you're going to want to just go ahead and turn up self-collision. And we're not really going to hit the floor ever, so I'll turn that off. And again, it'll come through and start giving those wrinkles. But wait,
Ian.
there's more. 1 second,
Sorry,
Louis.
no, real quick.
We have a transpose cloth here, which allows us now to actually just control that. And we can get all these cool wrinkles coming in, scaling it up and down, right? We can really start getting some nice flow to this, and we could play around. So obviously, slight quick demo here, but really just want to showcase that this is actually how Capcom chose to utilize for their characters during the Street Fighter demonstration. And it was so awesome to see such a, now a few years old feature really coming back with a resurgence. So I wanted to slightly remind people that that feature is here and here to stay. Go ahead, Louis.
No, I was going to, in context, you were talking about collision, and I was going to draw attention to people's knowledge of the masking. We can have backface masking is some similar kind of opportunity there. So it's not gonna
Absolutely, yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
brush, auto masking, backface mask. Some
Yeah.
people might be, this is actually, and thank you, Louis, for bringing that up, actually, because sometimes, too, you might run into a thing where, you might think, this is too thin, and I need to thicken this up. And the solution you might think of is, okay, polygroup that out and then thicken it up by deleting the backside and then re-extruding it. Yeah, reality is just grab your move brush, come up to brush, auto mask, backface, make a big mask, and boom, you could pull that sucker out.
There you go.
And you can thicken that up. And this is exactly how you would go through this is how I go through exactly when I'm like, oh, okay, that one piece I was 3D printing is just a little too thin. I don't want to lose or rework that piece. So this is exactly how I get those thicker pieces to ensure that there is the proper amount of wall thickness for my 3D printing.
That's perfect. I'm glad I threw that at you because we would have forgotten to mention it, and it makes it look really nice.
Yep.
You know,
And then last,
oh,
go ahead.
Yeah, go.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
No, Ian,
last
go.
but
No, that's what I mean.
last but not least, the biggest change that happened in 2023, in my opinion, came at the very beginning because it provided a brand new workflow, and that is Redshift inside of ZBrush. For years, people have asked, like, can a render engine be side in ZBrush? And we said, sure, absolutely, let's give that to you. And so we actually had the ability to do that. Now, I don't want to reopen my project and stuff, so I just want to show just really quickly the power of Redshift and ZBrush. Let me use my mouse for this to just double click on this image, bring this up. This is my 65 million poly model that I rendered in just a few minutes inside of ZBrush. Nice HDR lighting in the background, some good subsurface scattering lightly on the material, bring them a little bit of life, give them some warmth, and also to the leathering. This is a great way to concept your designs and get them, to your client faster, to your boss faster, so then you can see what it would look like at the end. Currently, right now, because of Redshift's first integration with coming in ZBrush and just helping us have another tool to bring our characters to life, this is a way that I've started showcasing my concepts without having to worry about optimization of my meshes, without having to send it to another DCC. This is something that is really proven to be speeding up my workflows and allowing me to have a little bit more control. So if I have to make the change, I have my original model in ZBrush. I never have to leave ZBrush in order to get something done and approved. So that's a great one. And if you want to know where that lives, all you got to do is come up here to render, Redshift render, turn that on, and you are good to go. Most of the settings that we did here, of course, the team, we all got together and said, this is what it should look like out the gate. So if you were to render this for the first time, then you absolutely could do that, and you'd get a really good render out the gate. So, and then to load HDRs, which has actually been the way to do it for some time, you just come up here to light, background, open up texture, and import any HDR you might have. We also accept EXR file types, and we have a bunch that ship with ZBrush. So if you come up here to texture in the light box, come on up to your panoramas right here, double click, you'll see that we have now a bunch of EXR file types that are available. And my favorite is this one right over here. It just looks cool. So, and it gives me something that looks a lot like this. So that
I'm
is
laughing
it for
because
my
he knows
demonstration.
he knows the background of that image.
I do. But it's awesome. I love it. It's best lighting to me. I love it. I use it all the time. I use it in this render specifically. So awesome. And that's it. That's what I got for today.
That was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there is one more thing though. That there's been a lot. We're not even able to have enough time to keep showing everything here. There's a lot that we're putting in. But there is one I think, Ian, you probably should just dabble on real quick that none of us actually brought up, but I think it's a key sculptural element, and it's symmetry with
local
dynamic
symmetry.
now. So
Yeah,
having dynamic
absolutely.
symmetry now is something that many of you in the community have asked for years, and so we put that in ZBrush now.
That's
so
fair.
you had dynamic symmetry ability to you. So Ian can show real quick what that means, having dynamic symmetry.
Absolutely. Yeah, here. And I'll go ahead and I will make Polymesh 3D. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and Q-cube this just for the sake of time. As you can see, my colleagues are there at Noman School. And shout out to Noman for giving us the time and space to have this broadcast. So here, I'm just going to real quick modify topology, mirror, and weld. And now we have the local symmetry with a button on top of it called dynamic. And what this allows us to do, in short, without really taking too much of your time, is this is world center. I'm going to send this over here. Whoops. Why did that happen, Ian? Well, that's because we have the cloth transpose tool on there. So let's go back to our basic regular transpose. I'm going to rotate this on over. Going to roll it. I'm going to roll it. Going to roll it. Sounds great. Perfect. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit X for symmetry. I will bring up my Z modeler tool. I'm going to go ahead and tap here, Q mesh, everything that's affected. Bada bing, bada boom. Here it is. And so I'm able to keep symmetry on no matter the position here. Now, something that I do want to call out when using this feature is that because it's now rotated all over the place, a really good start, and so an honorable nod to this one as well, is the fact that Stager's been around for some time. So under Geometry, Stager, set your home stage. Send this on over here, rotate this around, do your business, say target stage. And now here as I'm working and I'm coming through and I'm making all these quick, fun, random changes here, boom, something like that looks good. If I need to ever send it back home for whatever reason, I can switch that. But, you know, again, too, a lot of workflows is, oh, let me move this gizmo off over here. Well, if we do that, that is where you will see like there will be a little bit of a change, right? But with the Z modeler now, we actually can hover over face and we could say set symmetry. And I could say I want to set symmetry to these 2 points here. So I'm going to turn off symmetry here and I'm going to hover over this face, make sure that's on, 2 polys. So I'm going to say here and here. And now that sets it right back in. So then I can turn on that symmetry and my symmetry is reactivated. Even though my gizmo looks like this, my symmetry is reactivated. So that still gives you the freedom to do some of the workflows I like to do, which is, you know, maybe I want to move this around or pick this point up, rotate this, and then want to move something. I'm hitting all the wrong things today, Paul. Must be
No, you're doing great. Stop.
The end of the year.
But yeah, so
But
it is, yeah. So you have this ability, but this is why I recommend Stager for this feature as well, because at some point in time, you might be like, you know, I just need to reset that. Send that back home to Stager, reset your fun gizmo all the way back to the beginning, and you are good to go. So it has been a workflow change for me, especially with something like, if we take a look at Leonardo here real quick, I know we're running out of time, but something like, you know, if I, like these buckles here, these belts, these rivets, you know, if you wanted to work on this belt being just moved to the side a bit, this gives you more freedom to stay in symmetry, but place the object where you need it to be. All right.
All right.
Get a golf clap, Ian.
A golf clap, golf clap, golf clap.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Well,
you.
that brings us to the end, guys. Any famous last words from the panel?
Well, here, let's quickly just bring on our last 2 guests and say a final thank
do.
you to them. So I'm going to go ahead and bring on Michael, and let's bring on Patrick. Guys, thank you so much for being here.
For the whole long haul, too.
Yeah, the whole long haul. Michael Pavich, any last words as we close out the year 2023?
No, I'm looking forward to relaxing, but I know you guys are going to throw more stuff my way, so I'm ready for it.
It's coming. It's coming.
Okay, good. Patrick in the 4th dimension on the East Coast from a loft somewhere in New York. Any last words?
My last words. I'm blessed to be in the presence of the GOAT, Pavich here. So and I'll try to make sure by the time Christmas comes down, you guys are gonna have a lot of Christmas stuff to keep you hungry, because I know you guys are gonna be dying to eat. Other than that, I'm glad to do some work here. So
From the 4th dimension, Ian Robinson in the
Fourth
mobile
dimension.
location.
Yeah.
Any last
Thank you
words
guys.
for 23?
Just keep on creating, keep on sculpting. You know, without the community, without you guys using your tools every single day, you know, it wouldn't be as fun. So definitely, you know, keep creating, keep finding, you know, your inspirations, and never be afraid to ask questions. You guys can usually catch me on Wednesdays from 10 to noon Pacific Standard Time, where I live stream, and like Pavlovich, I hope somebody comes and asks a question, and usually we get quite a bit. So it's fun to keep that up. So more of that to come in 2024. So thank you guys.
Okay, and over to the big man himself, Paul Gabriel. Any last words before we go off into the sunset?
Yeah, I would say keep creating, keep moving forward. Don't be afraid to experiment. That's what we're all about, right? And that's some of the features. That's what it opens up for us. And I can't thank enough. I'm going on year 17 for me doing this. And just every year, there's just amazing artwork that I'm just like blown away by what you all are doing. And all I can ask is please keep sharing, keep being there for support for everybody else, and being part of that community and growing it, and thinking about all the next run of artists coming through. And can't say enough for what people like Patrick and Shane Olson and Michael Pavlovich and so many other, Ashley Adams, so many other artists of the world that just constantly keep giving to the community. This is one of the big pushes for us in our offices, is just seeing what you all do. So thank you.
A big motivator. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so on behalf of everybody here on behalf of the entire community, I'm Louis Tucci, and I would say stay courageous and be bold. We'll see you all again soon. Thanks for watching.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Happy holidays.
Chestnuts on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose. Hiya, sport. Be sure to join myself and other members of the ZBrush team as we conclude 2023 with a year-end retrospective you won't want to miss, highlighting some of the great fun and zany good times we've had throughout the year. We're sure glad you could join us. With a stylus in hand, ZBrush on command. Happy sculpting to you.